La quoi?
Madame la Présidente,
Madam President, members of the European Commission, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare this solemn hearing open, and I wish you all, on behalf of the Court, the warmest of welcomes. The Court has come together today to receive the solemn undertaking of the members of the new European Commission. It is a real high point to which the Court attaches great importance. This solemn undertaking is in fact one of the symbols of the union of law embodied by the European Union and to which each of its institutions contribute. Registrar, I now invite you to read the decision of the European Council of the 28th of November 2024 appointing the Commission.
Decision of the European Council, the 24th of November 2024, the European Council, having regard to the Treaty on European Union, in particular Article 17.3 and 7, third subparagraph thereof, has adopted this decision. Article 1. The following are hereby appointed to the Commission for the period of 1st December 2024 to 31st October 2029. As President, Madam Ursula von der Leyen. As a member, Vice President, pursuant to Article 18.4 of the Treaty of the European Union, Madam Kaja Kallas, High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. As members, Mr. Magnus Brunner, Madam Maria Luisa Casanova Morgado Diaz de Albuquerque, Mr. Valdis Dombrovskis, Mr. Rafael Fitto, Mr. Christoph Hansen, Mr. Wopke Bastian Högstra, Mr. Dan Jørgensen, Mr. Konstantinos Gadis, Madam Matakos, Mr. Andrius Kubilius, Madam Haja Labib, Mr. Michael McGrath, Mr. Glenn Mikhailov, Madam Roxana Manzato, Madam Teresa Ribeiro Rodriguez, Madam Jessica Rosval, Mr. Maris Sefcovic, Mr. Stefan Sejourné, Mr. Piotr Arkadio Serafin, Mr. Yosef Sikela, Madam Katerina Spasova-Gicheva-Zakharieva, Madam Dubravka-Sivka, Mr. Apostolos Tsitsikostas, Mr. Love Varhelye, Madam Henna Marie Virkkunen. Article 2. This decision shall enter into force on the 1st December 2024 and it shall be published in the official journal.
von der Leyen, bitte.
Madam von der Leyen, please.
Vom Europäischen Rat.
Having appointed as a President of the European Commission by the European Council following the vote of consent by the European Parliament, I solemnly undertake to respect the treaties and the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union in the fulfillment of all my duties, to be completely independent in carrying out my responsibilities in the general interest of the Union. In the performance of my tasks, neither to seek nor to take instructions from any government or from any other institution, body, office or entity to refrain from any action incompatible with my duties or the performance of my tasks. I formally note the obligation laid down under the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union, by virtue of which each member state is to respect this principle and is not to seek to influence members of the Commission in the performance of their tasks. I further undertake to respect, both during and after my term of office, the obligations arising therefrom, and in particular the duty to behave with integrity and discretion as regards the acceptance after I cease to hold office of certain appointments or benefits. Thank you.
Au nom de la Cour,
On behalf of the Court, I take note of your solemn undertakings, and I now invite the President of the Commission, Madam Ursula von der Leyen, to say a few words.
Monsieur le Président de la Cour,
President of the Court, ladies and gentlemen, judges, advocate generals, Presidents, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues.
Europeans, exactly 25 years ago, in January 2000, a European Convention gathered to draft our Charter of Fundamental Rights. It was chaired by President Roman Herzog. And its goal was to put the people at the center of our Union, with their dignity and their rights. It reminded to all Europeans that we were not just customers of a single market, but citizens in a union of free people. As President Herzog said back then, the Charter was written for all Europeans, including the citizens of future member states. It was always meant to be more than a summary of our constitutions. It is a promise to present and future generations of Europeans, a promise that our Union would always stand up for universal rights, the freedoms and the dignity of all people on this great continent. In the last 5 years, the promise of the Charter and our treaties was tested like never before. It was tested by a global pandemic, in trying to safeguard our freedoms and protect the health of our citizens. It was tested by unprecedented attacks on the rule of law and the primacy of our treaties. And it was tested by a war, by Putin's brutal invasion of Ukraine, a full-scale attack on all the rights and values we believe in. The last 5 years have shown that our Charter and treaties are more than words on paper. They are a legacy to protect. And this legacy, the guarantee of the rights of each of our citizens, is ultimately in the hands of this Court. Mesdames et Messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, that was also the responsibility which I accepted 5 years ago and which today we wholeheartedly embrace. And that's because the next 5 years will be just as difficult as the last 5 have been. The untouchability of our principles are going to be put to the test by the forces of fragmentation of our international order, and also by those who incite fear and division in the hearts of our societies. The rights and the freedoms of individuals can never be considered as something which is simply acquired, and that is why we, also this court and this commission, the guardians, if you like, the guardians of the rule of law, of democracy, of social progress. This testing that we will face, this is also true for our economies, while at a moment that worldwide competition is getting more severe. Today we work a great deal on the issue of competitiveness in Europe, and in other regions of the world, well, they think that competitivity is something that you can get, but at the cost of rights and values, that if we get rid of our common rules, will offer a comparative advantage. But in Europe, we know that it's just the opposite. Our economies are competitive when indeed they remain loyal to our European social pact, when they bring together the freedom of the entrepreneur and the protection of the worker. Our economies are competitive when men and women can benefit from the same opportunities. Our economies are competitive when our citizens, men and women, and our businesses are all protected by independent justice, the rule of law, the protection of the environment and the climate, equality and the dignity of the working conditions. These are not only values, they are our competitive advantage. Our law has got to be a competitive advantage. And by hugely simplifying, but never to the harm of the worker or the environment, we can make our law into an international standard, as indeed we have managed to do with, for example, the General Data Protection Regulation, by giving businesses a clear framework, a foreseeable framework, a stable framework, the best environment possible to invest. And that's because legal certainty is indeed the condition of freedom to do business. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, today we swore together to be the guardians of the treaties. Guardians of the treaties, les gardiens des traités. But our union is not just a treasure that we have to somehow protect. The protection of our treaties and to infuse them with life is indeed a daily task. Our values are universal. They do not change. But the world around us is changing, and we always have got to find new ways, new roads, in order to ensure that we can fulfill our responsibilities as the guardians of the treaty. The values on which this union is built can be seen quite clearly in the first paragraph of the second article of the Treaty on the European Union, that talks about the respect of human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and the respect of human rights, including the rights of those persons who belong to minorities. We have all sworn together today to do everything in our power to defend our union, and that is an enormous, but it's also a beautiful responsibility. To do justice to this responsibility, hand in hand with you, all of my colleagues, this responsibility fills me with joy. Just, in fact, as we can read passion in our hymn, our European hymn, that's exactly why, in fact, it can be called the Ode to Joy. Let us get to work, ready to take up our responsibilities with full seriousness, but also with gladness. Long live Europe.
Vive l'Europe. Merci.
Merci, Madame von der Leyen.
Thank you, Madam von der Leyen. President, Commissioners, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare this solemn hearing closed, and I invite you to join us for a reception that's waiting for us outside in the Salle des Pas Perdus.